Hello, people. I want to talk a bit about this incident that's apparently happened in New York City involving the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, paparazzi. This is today's Metro uh, cover. Harry and Meghan in paparazzi car chase. Um, there's the piece at the top of the paper there about Eddie Izzard. But the main feature is on this purported run-in with a paparazzi. Now, it's not the first time they've been involved in a run-in with a paparazzi, but this one has sinister echoes of August 1997, um, and I think it's quite troubling. Before I get into this, I'm going to read out the report. It's not too long. I should be able to do it in a few minutes. Let me just prefix this by saying that I don't think there's any contradiction in criticising Harry and Meghan, and I have. I maintain everything I've said. I believe some of their antics have absolutely done them no favours. In the court of public opinion, I do think they both have a good deal of vanity, and I just don't agree with the way they've went about things in terms of sort of this victimhood narrative whilst, broadcasting their problems to the world. I think there's a lot of contradictions about these two. They want a private life, yet they constantly do interviews and, book deals and all the rest of it. They want to keep the royal titles, but not the responsibility that comes with it. So I think they deserve a lot of the criticism that comes their way. Having said that, I've never taken the position that absolutely everything they say is without basis. I've never taken the position that they're just full of it and there's nothing there. I think there are some legitimate concerns and grievances, and definitely one of them is the behaviour of the press. Then again, I don't even consider the paparazzi press. I think I'll be quite blunt about it. I think the paparazzi are scum. I think they're some of the lowest forms of life on the planet. I really think they're despicable people because I mean they're basically they're just beyond contempt. The way they behave, the way they endanger lives for a good shot, the way they have a complete zero regard rather for their subjects. They're just contemptible, and I don't think they deserve to be called photographers. They're leeches, they're stalkers, and they're bad people. They're just and I've always felt that the American attitude to paparazzi gets far too conflated with the notion of free speech, and I'll come to that afterwards. But I'm going to just read this out. The report is by Liam Coleman. So in this story, just as a prefix, I am sympathetic to Harry and Meghan in this one because it's disgraceful. Pursuit near catastrophic, say royals. It was challenging, say New York police. Challenging, say New York police. Prince Harry and wife Meghan have told how photographers pursued them in a near catastrophic car chase through New York for nearly 2 hours. They had left an award ceremony with Meghan's mum Doria Ragland just after 10 p.m. when paparazzi in six blacked out cars, the cards as well as being despicable stalkers, they're absolute cards, began a relentless pursuit. His spokesperson said, Harry, 38, whose mother Diana died in the high-speed Paris car chase in 1997, her family blamed on photographers. Pedestrians and other drivers were at risk as the mob drove on pavements and jumped red lights despite NYPD officers confronting them. Police last night said they assisted the royals' challenging journey, but said there were no collisions, summonses, injuries, or arrests. Well, if the paparazzi, ran red lights, I don't know why there wouldn't be ground for arrests. Whether they couldn't catch them, or I don't know why that is. Although in a vehicle with members of their private security team, Harry, Meghan, and Doria, 66, were said to have forced to take refuge in police stations. They left one police station in a taxi to confuse photographers, but it did not work, and pictures were allegedly taken of them inside the vehicle. Driver Sukhchan Singh, 37, said he was flagged down outside a police station at around 11 p.m. by a guard who asked him, "Do you want a fare?" As he drove, Harry, Meghan, her mother, and the guard, Sonny, said a black Honda Accord and an older grey Honda CR-V kept moving us and were coming next to the car. They took pictures as we stopped and were filming us. He said the guard became concerned about the photographers and asked them to go back to the police station. He dropped them back within 10 minutes of picking them up. He said he got the impression that they had already been pursued by paparazzi before entering his car, but said of his journey with them, I don't think I would call it a chase. I never felt like I was in danger. It wasn't like a car chase in a movie. They were quiet and seemed scared, but it's New York, it's safe. There's a bit of a contradiction there in what he's saying. After waiting at another police station, they said they finally made it back to a friend's house at half 12 a.m. Relentless pursuit lasting over 2 hours, resulting in multiple near collisions involving other drivers on the road, pedestrians, and two NYPD officers, Harry's spokesman said. Despite being confronted by uniformed police multiple times, the paparazzi's cars continued their pursuit, trying to follow Sussexes and Doria to the private residence they were staying at. Traffic violations by drivers include driving on a sidewalk, going through red lights, reversing down a one-way street, driving while photographing, and illegally blocking a moving vehicle. While being a public figure comes with a level of interest from the public, it should never come at the cost of anyone's safety. They warned dissemination of these images, given the ways in which they were obtained, encourages a highly intrusive practice that is dangerous to all involved. An NYPD spokesperson said it had assisted the private security team protecting the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They added there were numerous photographers that made their transport challenging. The Duke, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex arrived at their destination. There were no reported collision summonses, injuries, or arrests in regard. The couple's biographer and close friend Omid Scobie revealed Harry, Meghan and Doria were understandably shaken, but thankful everyone's safe. It was her first public appearance since Harry flew to London to attend the coronation of his father, King Charles, on May the 6th. The couple stepped down as senior royals in 2020, and that's just some of the background. They were actually attending an event for the Miss Foundation Women of Vision Award 50th anniversary gala at Siegfried Theatre in New York. Um, And apparently, in a separate development, an alleged stalker has been arrested outside the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's California mansion. Kevin Garcia Valdovinos was reportedly lurking outside the couple's home in Montecito, I don't know how that's pronounced, in the early hours on Tuesday. He was initially placed under citizen's arrest at the entrance to the property by the couple's security team, said celebrity gossip TMZ, which is a piece of trash. Valdovinos was later released on a £2,000 bail, what that would be in dollars, after police at the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office charged him with misdemeanor stalking. He reportedly did not make it onto the property. Okay, there will be people out there who just don't like Harry and Meghan, and they will be tempted to say this is all an exaggeration. It's just them trying to get attention again. It's all blown out of proportion. Actually, I don't see it that way. Notwithstanding a lot of the criticism of Harry and Meghan, which I endorse, I do think it's very plausible that this happened. I mean, it's not something they've just made up. The police themselves have spoken about it. The taxi driver, he said he didn't feel like it was a chase, but maybe by that point the paparazzi were trying to work out if they were in the vehicle or not. Um, but this is crazy. I mean, driving on pavements, running red lights, it could have killed someone. And it just shows that 26 years on, they've not learnt a damn thing. But the real problem here is the industry behind it, because these leeches wouldn't be doing what they were doing without demand. And where does that demand come? It comes from magazines and publications that buy this stuff. I hate TMZ because it's, as Americans would say, TMZ, because they're such hypocrites. They report that the stock was outside the manager, but they're the very sort of publication. I mean, it's a paparazzi publication that will buy this stuff, that will buy the photographs that these stalkers took. Um, I mean, a degree of common sense comes into this. If you see that there is a photograph of a couple who are, sort of getting away from the camera, they're in a vehicle, that's clearly not a sanctioned photograph. It's clearly not a red carpet photograph. It's clearly not a photograph at some formal function. That is a paparazzi photograph. And, there will be people, like I say, who just don't like Harry and Meghan. They'll have no sympathy for them in this situation. But I have to say, in almost every situation, when it comes to the paparazzi and someone else, a public figure, I will almost always side with a public figure. Because being a public figure doesn't mean you have to put up with being stalked. And that's what it is, fundamentally. Now, they have complained about this before. They've even insinuated that palace insiders have tipped off the press. Um, who knows? Who knows? I think it's unlikely myself, given that William and Catherine have also had hassle. Early in their relationship, Catherine was hounded by the paparazzi. So this isn't something unique to Harry and Meghan. Um, every member of the royal family's experienced it. There was a little bit made of the fact that the palace hadn't said anything in the 24 hours since this was reported. If that's true, it is short-sighted on behalf of the palace. I think the king and at least William or Catherine, they should at least give some sort of statement of solidarity or something. If that's the case, I mean, again, a lot of allegations are made, and we're only hearing one side. Um, but there's a number of things to observe about this. Firstly, the paparazzi are what they are; they're despicable. Um, but I think the deeper problem here is the demand. Those publications, every single one of them, TMZ, probably National Enquirer is another one. Every single publication that buys this crap, um, if God forbid something happened and there was a serious incident, and God forbid there were deaths, either civilians or the subjects involved, I mean, firstly, it would be a massive story, massive. It would be, I think, as big actually as the story about Diana. And I think back to 1997, the paparazzi on their motorbikes, like revving to go, even before she'd opened the door of the Ritz. It's sinister, sinister. I mean, these people are absolutely beyond the pale, and I think that there's a few things they need to stop being normalized as photographers for a start. Let's call them what they are. They're stalkers. Stalkers. I think the problem with calling them photographers, yeah, technically they're taking pictures, but what they're doing is also stalking. So they should just be called stalkers, i.e., a group of stalkers followed Harry and Meghan in blacked out cars, because that's what they are. Also, the legal. I'm a bit confused by this, because if they ran red lights and they were performing, illegal motoring offences, I don't know why the NYPD didn't have grounds for arrest. I mean, is it a case that they just couldn't catch up with them? Yeah, of course, it's notoriously difficult to identify the paparazzi because they're complete cards. For all that they want to focus on their subject, they're very quick to hide themselves, which makes them, in my view, even more despicable. Um, so that might be the reason, but it's just lucky that no one was seriously injured. I mean, you can imagine the fear if you're a public figure and you know that they're targeting you or your loved ones. I mean, Doria Ragland's not a public figure; she's only known because she's Meghan's mother. So she's now targeted. I just think it's despicable. But the other area I was going to mention is laws. I think there should be much tougher laws against the paparazzi. I think the American notion of free speech, perversely, if this went to court, and I know this because it's happened before, the actor Sam Worthington was in a run-in with the paparazzi, and the paparazzos, to use the singular, his legal defence argued it was free speech. Now, to me, speech is an opinion. It's a point of view. It's an article in a newspaper. It's not an action. This is why, to my mind, bringing in the First Amendment to the paparazzi is perverse. It's two different things. One is an opinion, and one is an action. So I think that it's ironic they went to the United States, to escape all of this. I would say the paparazzi over there are worse than Britain. I mean, they're bad wherever they are, but I would say, the laws do vary. I'd say in the United States, there's a lot more, especially California. The paparazzi can get away with anything. In Britain, it's a little bit stricter. Even the tabloids here don't generally buy paparazzi photos. They have in the past. I think they've been a little bit more reserved about it in recent years, ever since the Diana thing. Paparazzi in France and Italy are vicious. They're absolutely. I remember at the time of Diana's death, it's hard not to reference this because the echoes are incredible. At the time of her death, paparazzi was involved in that incident were thought to be French and Italian nationals. So those particular paparazzi, indeed the paparazzi began in Italy, they are particularly ruthless. And on the night of her death, Piers Morgan, he was then the editor of the Daily Mirror, was approached by paparazzos who wanted to sell him pictures. And he basically told them where to go. He told them, make themselves scarce because they would be wanted by police. I really, really hope that when they were arrested that night, they felt a lot of fear, because I do believe that they had blood on their hands over her death. I do believe that. I think it's a no-brainer. Now, there's going to be conspiracy theories to the end of time about that. One of them is that Henri Paul, the driver, was well over the limit. It probably didn't help. You cannot tell me that, ruthless paparazzo pursuing them at high speed, trying to veer them off the road. You can't tell me that wouldn't have an effect on what happened. I remember when Sienna Miller testified in the Levison inquiry into phone hacking, she spoke about her experience of paparazzos. Um, I personally think that it should be illegal, actually, for publications to use their photographs, and I don't think they should be allowed to claim First Amendment rights, because basically that should be seen as a product of stalking. I mean, put it this way: if you had an individual lone nut, okay, who's not a paparazzo, and he was seen outside a celebrity's house. I was looking recently at the stalker of the singer Bjork, who notoriously kept a video log, and that guy clearly had problems, but he sent a device to London, and the Florida police had to tip off the Metropolitan Police, and thankfully they infiltrated it on time. He ended up shooting himself. But, you get a character like that, he's just going to be arrested, or she. They're a stalker, and that's what they'll be arrested and charged. Yet the paparazzi seems to get away with it. Why? What's the difference? Um, so I think personally that it should be illegal. Yeah, I mean, someone like the Bjork stalker, if he sold his exploits to some publication, they wouldn't accept it. So why should it be any different with a paparazzi? That's why TMZ, when I see them, referenced, if celebrities passed away, if they're referenced and interviewed and normalized, they're vultures. And I have no respect for them. No respect. If TMZ offered me $1 million, I probably shouldn't speak too fast here, but, I put it this way: if I ever worked for them as a journalist, you, as my viewers, have my permission to disown me, rebuke me, to shame me, because I think TMZ is beyond the pale. They're basically a paparazzi publication, and they're probably the best known. I mean, they've literally had videos like our reporters confront this actor. Um, Now, there is a public interest argument to be made if, for example, you have a politician who's alleged to have been involved in corruption, or a celebrity, and journalists are trying to get an interview. There may be a case to be made that there's a public interest there. I'm not a fan of doorstepping, and doorstepping is a practice used even by mainstream journalists. I don't like it unless it's absolutely necessary, but I don't like it as a method. I remember I phoned into LBC and I spoke to Nick Ferrari about this, the LBC host, and I put that to him. I said, look, doorstepping there's too much paparazzi-esque behaviour about it. And he actually conceded. He actually said, as an editor, I need to get these targets. And I said, well, if the public figure isn't doing interviews, you could tell your viewers that, you could tell your readers that, this person is refusing to speak to us, then it's there for the record. And he actually conceded, he actually agreed. Um, so basically, there's no argument for the paparazzi at all. There is no public interest. There is no, I mean, there's public interest insofar as the voyeuristic side of it, but there's no moral public interest in terms of, this is legitimate journalism. There is no there's no rational argument about free speech because it isn't speech, it isn't an opinion, it's an action. So anyway, I think this would be an opportunity probably for the King or William or Catherine or someone in the royal family to maybe reach out and say that, they're happy, they're safe, or something like that. I do think it would be a bit stubborn, I will say this, of the royal family to say absolutely nothing. And it perhaps is one area where they need to change a little bit, this sort of stiff upper lip thing. I think things have changed, but it's the sort of thing that will just sort of add further to Harry and Meghan's grievances now. That doesn't mean they're right in the way have approached things. I think they were dead wrong to basically smear their family in front of the world the way they did. I don't agree with all of the approaches they've taken, and I don't have much time for them. I think they're quite vain. I think they're quite hypocritical, but I wouldn't wish the paparazzi on anyone. And I wouldn't wish that on them. I think that would have been a frightening experience. Remember, they've got young children. Um, any editor, any newsman, newswoman who justifies this, they're just as much a part of the problem. I've no doubt someone like Piers Morgan would find some angle to try and justify this, or even victim blame and say they were at fault. No, this is one occasion where the paparazzi are 150% to blame. It's despicable, and I would like to see, certainly in at least in this country, a strengthening of laws to actually make it legal for publications to utilize the products of stalking, which is paparazzi photographs. I mean, God forbid if this had been a repeat of 1997, it would have been awful. But it shows how ruthless these people are, and it will probably happen again. So I don't know what's the answer. I mean, American law isn't going to change over two people, but God forbid something happened to them, and let's say it happened in New York City or Los Angeles. I do think there would be a similar debate as happened in 1997 about just how mm, just how corrosive the paparazzi are and the implications of those publications who buy from them. It's a little bit like you could get a robber who steals something and then he sells it to some gangmaster. So in a way, the editors who take these photos are even worse. The paparazzi are leeches. They are actually quite low down the pecking order. They're like the foot soldiers, so to speak. Someone is buying this stuff, and of course, it's public responsibility as well. Everyone who buys National Enquirer or watches TMZ, they're fueling it. They're fueling it. Um, But I'm sick and tired of them being normalized as photographers. I'm sick and tired of TMZ being treated like it's some sort of reputable news source. It's a paparazzi outlet, and it's trash. And I hope this doesn't happen again, but sadly it probably will. Let me know your thoughts.